Hi class, I'm Kris, and I'll be your English teacher for today. Today's lesson is about how verbs change. If you don't know what a verb is, it's any kind of word that involves doing something or performing some kind of action. Now, in English, there are two things that can cause a verb to change the way it is written. The first, who is doing the action? And two, when does this action happen? English is divided up in a few different subjects, as some other languages are as well. These subjects include I, you, he, she, or it. We, you all. Sometimes when it says you, what is meant is you all. So it can refer to more than one person. And finally, they. Now, one thing is true. All of these subjects are singular. That means there is only one person. I, just me. You, just you. He or she or it, just he or she or it. But all of the subjects here are plural. That means that there is more than one. We, that would have to be me and one other person. You all, that is more than two persons in a group. So if you belong to a group of persons, then if I spoke to your group, I might say you, and I might say you all. And finally, they refers to multiple persons, many guys, many girls, etc. Singular and plural. Okay? Let's look at an example that will help you learn how the subjects can change the way a verb looks. Okay. To talk. I'm talking now. Talk is our verb. But whenever we have a plain verb that is not changed by any subject, it is known as an infinitive. And when a verb is in this form, then we put the word to in front of it. And that lets us know that there is no subject chosen yet. Okay? Talk. When the subject is I, there's no change to the infinitive form. I talk. When the subject is you, the same thing, no change. You talk. Simple enough, right? He or she or it. This one's slightly different. In addition to the infinitive talk, we now add an S on the end. Talks. So now the word becomes talks. He talks, she talks, it talks. And it's the same no matter whether we choose he or she or it. It will always be talk with an S on the end. We, again, talk. No change. You or you all, again, talk. And then finally, they. Talk. No change. So, just from looking at these, we see that the only example that changed was he, she, or it talks. And the only way that it changed was by gaining the S on the end. All of the others, talk, 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 stayed exactly the same. That's simple, right? The good news about English is that most verbs are like talk. They don't really change much when used in the present tense. But then there are some words that are known as irregular verbs. Irregular verbs. Irregular verbs are known as irregular, and that is because they do not follow such an easy pattern. They change in ways that are not entirely predictable unless we already know what it will change. For example, to be. Be seems like a very simple verb when we first look at it and when we consider what it means. But it is also one of the verbs that changes. most unrecognizably. When the subject is I, then be becomes am. I am. When the subject is you, be becomes are. Are. When the subject is he, she, or it, then it becomes is. Notice with talk, many of the verbs stayed talk, but with be, which is an irregular verb, every single instance of the verb has changed. Am, are, is, and they look nothing like be. We, then be becomes are. You, or you all, is also are. And then they are. Now what do we notice? All of these subjects, the plural subjects, result in the verb be becoming are. We saw one other time when be became are, and that was when you was a singular subject. You are. We just saw that. My point is, be, as well as other irregular verbs, change in very strange ways, and the only way to learn how they change is to study how, by reading, listening to others speak. Only by encountering those words ourselves can we learn. Because some verbs, like talk, since we know that they are regular, we already know that they are only going to gain the S on the end when the subject is he, she, or it. Unlike with irregular verbs, which change in ways that we cannot predict. Okay? One more thing. Verbs also change depending on when they are done. For example, when we use talk, I talk, you talk, he talks, she talks, it talks. This was all present tense. Present tense is what is happening right now. But if we change it to something like past tense, which is something that has already happened, then talk will change. Luckily, in the past tense, most words are not very difficult. For example, when the subject is I and talk has taken place in the past, I talked. And the only change to talk was to add ed onto the end. You she, or it talked. Every time the word talk ends with ed when talk has happened in the past. We talked. You or you all talked. They talked. So, the only change, again, that has happened is ed. Regardless of what the subject is, whether the subject is singular or plural, the only thing, again, ed. Again, not all words are as easy as talk. For example, catch. Catch. We would say, in the present tense, I catch, you catch, he, she, or it catch as, with an es this time. This time we're adding the letter e. We catch, you all catch, they catch. Okay? That's present tense. But in the past, catch becomes I caught. Now, we see some letters in common, like the CA and CA, T, but other than that, it's very different. That's because catch is regular in the present tense, but in the past tense, it becomes irregular. You caught. He or she or it caught. And the same can be said as well about all of the plural subjects. We caught. You all caught. They caught. So, caught, 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 every time it will be caught. But just the way that catch changes to caught, that alone makes catch irregular in the past tense. Okay? That is all for which we have time this lesson. Maybe next lesson I can elaborate or expand some more on these ideas. I can explain a bit further in depth. I can give more examples of tenses, and we can have some overall review. It all depends on what Angela wants to do. If she wants me to do that, then we can do that. But if she'd like me to move on to something else, then we can move on. Okay? See you next time.